This is not what you think it is. Before you click it away because you think that you've seen this thing already years and years and years ago, keep watching because I promise you it's different. Thanks for watching. Today we're taking a look at the HPI Sport 3 Flux BMW 2002 Turbo. At first glance you might think that this is something that looks familiar, that HPI has just thrown a couple of items together that you already know from years ago. Initially I assumed the exact same thing and I needed to actually do some research, read up on it, before coming to the conclusion that there is a lot of new stuff going on over here. This is the Sport 3 chassis. I have done a Sport 3 creator kit build in the past, which is the Porsche that you see behind me. That was a lot of fun. Also make sure that I'm familiar with this chassis. This body is new. This is not the same body that you would find back in the day on the HPI Cup Racer, because that was a smaller sized body, but we will get into that a tiny bit later. The Sport 3 ready to run comes in two different versions. You have a brushed version and you also have a brushless version, which is the Flux. That's also the one that I have over here. That one is of course a tiny bit faster, tiny bit quicker. Both of them are waterproof, but if you don't give a flux about going quick, you can always go for the brushed version and have fun with that at a tiny bit of a lower entry price. Oil-filled shocks, lots of features on the box, metal gears, front and rear diffs. It is four-wheel drive, shaft-driven four-wheel drive actually. Pretty easy to maintain, ball bearings all around and all of that good stuff. This being such a familiar chassis also makes sure that there are plenty of upgrades available in case you want to do that. There is a manual. If you've never operated an RC before, go read it before you injure yourself or those around you or burn your house down. But of course also for the sake of maintenance and getting parts numbers, it is very useful to have a manual, or in case you want to know how you operate, for example, this radio. This is the HPI TF51. Also having the on-off switch in orange, that's new. Having the third and the fourth channel on top over there, also in orange, that's new. Overall, it feels like a bit more of a high quality item than some of the previous versions. Now also has like a rubber type of grip around the handle, a foam wheel. I'm not sure, I don't think that the previous ones had this type of rubber grip. And then when you flip the top up, you will also see that there's a ton of trim switches over here. One of them is your steering trim, so you can center your steering, but I think more interesting is the dials that sit above it, and these allow you to set your endpoints. So even if your steering is a tiny bit off and you don't get like a full left turn, there is actually an option over here where you can fully dial in your left turning and fully dial in your right turning without being kind of limited by where your center of steering is. You also have a dual rate for your steering, so it is very much a complete radio and it will allow you to do a ton of settings right on the go. One of the buttons over here on the top operates the lights, so in case you want to turn them off, you can do that as well. But it is very cool to see all of that functionality included in a ready-to-run radio. Now onto the body. What did I mean earlier when I said this is a new body? Because I can imagine that if you're looking online, you will see this body come by from HPI from years and years ago, and it is very much familiar looking apart from a few little details. One of them being the absence of a tailpipe. The front of this one actually looks a whole lot better than it did on the Cup Racer version. If you look at this is actually a plastic molded part, the kidneys as well. All of that stuff is molded, and also these headlights. And that's also because these are functioning headlights. The taillights look equally fantastic, and so does that chrome rear bumper, along with that little wing that they put on the trunk lid. The Cup Racer version of this body was 225 millimeters long, so it was not quite 10 scale, despite, confusingly enough, it being called the True 10 version of the HPI body lineup. It was more 12 scale. This, which is not a True 10, this is actually True 10. You won't get any truer to 10 scale than with this body actually. A full-sized BMW 2002 would be 250 centimeters in wheelbase, and this thing is 250 millimeters in wheelbase. So it is dead on, spot on, super fantastic. Also, this is way more of like touring car width, so it is right between 190 and 200, a bit more on the higher end, so more towards the 200. And with it, you have just a car that fits into way more categories. Also, if you want to have some fun with friends and have something that fits into the same category as what they are driving. The Cup Racer was really 12 scale, and this is a true 10 scale. They should actually bring back, I think, the name True 10. Because in this case, it actually fits. Nice wing mirrors. There's a lot of detail going on this body. The trim around the entire body as well looks very much spot on. Also with the mirrored writing on the front bumper. So it says op route, which is turbo mirrored. And then of course 2002 is just mirrored. So it still says 2002, but then with the two the wrong way around. And that is because BMWs usually they really get in your wing mirror and they high beam you to signal that they want to pass you. And you look in your mirror and you can see that, oh, it's a BMW 2002 Turbo. The light kit on this one, it does not include any indicator lights, so it is very much scale because BMW users never ever use those. But unfortunately, it does not come with the high beam. I would have liked to see that. If you take it off, initially I thought, hey, HPI has sent me a phone. It is very cool that the old school theme, that it kind of continues also inside of the body. If you are familiar with older telephones where you still needed to dial a number by using an actual dial, so if you wanted to dial 9, you needed to turn it all the way through, and dialing a 10-digit phone number would take an eternity. And those phones actually had phone cords like this. So initially, if you're old like myself, you would perhaps be inclined to mistake this thing for a telephone and then the chassis for a receiver. But this cord is just to connect the light kit to the chassis. So the light kit, you can tell, is securely fastened on the inside of the body. Goes to the back then and to the front. There is a little brake light as well, and it lights up fantastically naturally. Let's turn it on real quick. Just have a look at those lights. You can tell that they're very natural in tone, so they have a nice, it's not amber, but it is not white or blue either, because that's something that I really hate on most light kits, is that they look so incredibly like an LED. And this looks almost more like a regular light bulb, and I really like that, especially for a car that is, of course, a classic car. A classic looking car. There you can tell as well that those brake lights, they function perfectly. So yeah, this makes for a tiny bit more realism when you're driving it. I think it's super cool. The body, like I said, it's great. It is split in two parts, so there is a separate section in the back. That's because this is a pretty complex body to shape, and to pull this out of the mold you need to sacrifice one of the parts, and I think it is smart that I did that in the back. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen is perhaps an interior panel. There are options for those, so do not despair. You can always add your own. Or perhaps HPI will offer that as an option at a later stage. I don't know. Could be, fingers crossed. I would really like to see that happening actually, because that would really make it a bit more scaled than it currently is. Very nice wheels. Very cool period looking units there actually, and also nice and grippy tires. High quality rubber as well, and it will withstand whatever this Flux system can throw at it. The Sport 3 is a very simple chassis, so most of it is plastic. It's almost a bit of a tub chassis. It is then, like I said, a shaft driven four-wheel drive, and you can access that center shaft by dropping this part of the bottom of the chassis out, and then you can re-grease everything, inspect it, see if it is all still good to go. Some pretty beefy lower A-arms both in the front and in the back. Not a lot of adjustability to be done to it in its stock form, because the tie rods in the top of both the front and the rear end, but also the steering links, all of that stuff is fixed. It is pretty thick plastic, however, so it will withstand some abuse, but in tunability it certainly lacks. One of the first things that I would recommend having a look at is the drive shafts in the front. On my Creator Kit build, I did replace these with some universals right from the start, and it does run a tiny bit smoother than these dog bone ones. Another thing that you want to keep an eye on, and that should perhaps have been up for a tiny bit of a redesign, or at least another look at, is the steering rack. The minute you have a tiny piece of gravel coming into the chassis, it will jam up your steering. So if you have steering problems with your Sport 3, 9 out of 10 times there is something jammed underneath the Ackerman over here. So just have a good look to see that you don't have any debris stuck underneath of that steering system over here. Your steering servo sits right under your receiver box. You will find that over here. Everything is waterproof. And then behind that there's a Flux branded ESC combined then with a brushless motor system, which is mounted to a metal motor mount to dissipate the heat tiny bit easier. Both front and the back have differentials. It is all metal gears. It is very nicely assembled, and I think that all in all, if you're looking to get into RC, this is definitely a package to have a look at. If you just want to have a nice fast road car that you can throw around and you can drive through a puddle, and also if you want to have something that perhaps looks good on the shelf, then definitely the HPI Sport 3 BMW 2002 Turbo is a good option to consider. These are very manageable, very easy to throw around, very predictable in how they drive, very easy to set up, and especially seeing that you have a ton of options to fine-tune it from your radio, it is a very nice and user-friendly car. Also, spares, definitely not hard to come by, along with all of the upgrades that you want to have. So if there is something that you are not completely satisfied with, like I mentioned, for example, that steering rack, there are solutions for that. I think that's the benefit of having a chassis that has been around for a while, then combined with a new body. I hope you found this an informative video. Don't judge a book by its cover. I think that certainly shows with this HPI Sport 3 that is not a cup racer. True 10 is finally back, and also finally the way that it should have been, in true 10 scale. If you have any other suggestions for upgrades that you might want to see me do to this HPI Sport 3, let me know in the comment section. Perhaps also I need to get a clearer body for it and paint it. Let me know. I'm always curious to hear about you guys' suggestions and your ideas. If you want to have more information about the HPI Sport 3, this BMW, whether that be in brushed or in brushless, go check out the links in the video description box, because I will make sure that there's plenty of links over there for you to read up and also order yours. I'm really happy that HPI is back in such force as they have been in the past couple of months. They have been my first very big RC love, and seeing them come back in such force is really a great sight to see. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click the like button if you have not done that yet, and also subscribing is free. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Back on.